Hey, what's up, everybody? Clap, 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 clap. Welcome, welcome to Xbox Issue. I don't even have a 99-cent app like you, Mooch. So it's
worth every penny, crap.
Yeah, so I know, man. I maybe one day I'll get it. I do have a better phone now, so I have my Android, and you know, I'm kind of ready to go with that. But we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Noof will be in here shortly. He's going to be running a little bit late, but let me do some introductions real fast. We have the man, the myth. We've got Mooch. He's here. He was eating right literally before we went on air, and so we were like, hold up, we'll let him finish eating.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Over there. Right? Well, listen, my eating skills are second. Well, I can't even say second to none. I'm way behind Hellhammer. You ever seen Hellhammer? You guys, if you haven't yet, Hellhammer, would you please make sure that everybody gets your mixer information so that we can tune in? You could sell a bag of Lay's potato chips to anybody. I don't care. Oh. If somebody just left the buffet, I'd still buy a bag after hearing that crunch.
Yeah, it's
unbelievable. Funny. So yeah, no, hilarious. Thanks, buddy. Good stuff. We got a lot of stuff on the list here. There's been a lot of I wouldn't call it necessarily groundbreaking news crap, but it's really interesting, water cooler talk, for gaming.
There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and you know, it's funny because Mooch messaged me earlier. He goes, "We're doing Xbox Nation, right?" Because I got Hellblade, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we're definitely doing Xbox Nation." So
yes, sir, it's back, baby.
Hey, by the way, I got Hellblade as well. Mooch did, and I actually was playing through the first little part. Got the you get 90 gamer score just getting to that initial little fort area.
You? I'll have to put that up here after that.
Yeah, so I gotta say that game looks gorgeous though. Dude,
it looks gorgeous, and I know that you've been, and don't get me wrong, you've been constructive criticism on the game, which I don't think you're wrong. I really don't. I just think that the game, it does get a bit repetitive, but for some reason that immersion you get, it's a unique experience, if you will, with taking the angle of the mentally, stressed protagonist, and that's something that's new to me. I thought that was very new to me, and it was interesting to play through that.
Yeah, you know what? So I figure if I play through it a little bit at a time, that might be easier for me than just trying to just sit down and boss hog the whole thing, So, but it looks gorgeous, and they give you few different options to choose from when playing, which I like.
What are the options, Crap? Now I have yet to play the Xbox version.
You have 4K, you have enriched visuals, which gives you extra foliage and stuff like that, and then you have performance mode, which is 60 frames per second. I like.
Which one have you chose?
I liked enriched visuals actually.
Yes,
I think that looks really, really good. So that's the one I picked, and the HDR really pops on that game too. So pretty interesting stuff. Oh, we also got Hellhammer. How's it going, bro?
Pretty good. I actually just started playing through Rise of the Tomb Raider. So.
Oh, you're in for a treat. That game is absolutely
that
amazing.
game's awesome so far. And graphically, that's one of the best looking games I've seen on the X.
Yes, I absolutely love that game. Well, we're glad to have you here as well, Hellhammer. And we also got a guest star. We've got Put It Together. I'm going to try to do this. Kiss That Ring. Good. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up? Hey, I'm going to get a recording from Xbox, so no matter what podcast I'm on, I can just play that because I think people wait every week just for that introduction.
Oh, dude, he does introductions second to none. I miss when he used to do Fooskis, and
I did too.
He would do all these great introductions and stuff, and that was really cool. So glad everybody could join us tonight. The Don's going to enlighten us a little bit on some of this PS5 stuff going on as well, which is going to be a topic and rumors and stuff like that. He does have a little bit that he can say, so stay tuned for that. You know what? I thought this was funny, which was Cliffy B, Boss Key Productions. He stopped work on Lawbreakers, right? Nobody's playing it, so I don't think anybody's going to care. Which Lawbreakers was more of an Overwatch kind of clone. I keep hearing myself.
I hear it too.
Whose mic is that?
That's either Hellhammer
maybe it's
or
the
Don.
I think it's the Don.
I'll turn my volume down.
Yeah. So yeah, he made an Overwatch clone with before, and now it seems like he's making a clone of Fortnite.
Right.
This what is this game called?
Well,
Radical.
I had a feeling you'd bring it up, Crap. It's called Radical Heights. I actually purposefully went on and listened to IGN had a 20-minute Let's Play because it's only on Steam. So we couldn't, of course, Xbox has an early access, but why put it there where his beloved fans once were? But nonetheless, so I went on IGN, I took a look at it. Listen, people gave PUBG a lot of slack, and rightfully so in early preview. And I gotta say, in early preview, it's not really fair to critique any game. But I will say this, Crap. He came out with a public statement, okay, saying something like this was something that was going to be something that Boss Key really kind of was near and dear to their heart and something they've been working on for a long time. And when you read about this, and we happen to have the Don on tonight, which is perfect. Like, you can ask the Don, even from something very simple to something very complex, they pumped this thing out in 5 months.
Yeah.
And nobody has their dreams and admirations come true in 5 months in the gaming industry. Even if you've, and shout out to Biggie in the chat who took my advice and read Console Wars. They say in that game, back in the days of the Sonic days and Mario, it was still 12 to 14 months to get a game out back then.
Yeah.
So there's no, like, he's saying this is his love and admiration in 5 months. You can just tell already, Crap, what kind of game this was going to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because they don't even have assets or anything for it, or some of it. Like, it's just like placeholder assets, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
And it looks like Fortnite. It's like an 80s thing or whatever.
Crap, I know you don't like Fortnite, but it does not look like Fortnite. It looks like
that kind of graphically, graphically like Fortnite.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it has the same color palette, right? I mean,
yeah.
either you're on LSD, Martha Stewart's Better Home or Living, or a pack of Skittles, right? Like it has that color palette to it, just like Fortnite does. So.
And it's like an 80s type thing, right? Like they're trying to appeal to 80s people or whatever.
Which I dig, Crap. You know me. I love the 80s, but come on. Like, first of all, that's a really bad interpretation of the 80s. And second of all, like, it's really broken. I think I saw a screenshot somebody took and put on Twitter where somebody was like, you know, you're supposed to be like, I don't know if it was, the guy was, I couldn't see the shot great, but you're kind of like zip lining down, but the hook or the thing you're zip lining to, your hands were just floating in the air and there was nothing there. I mean, it was really broken or not complete. That seemed a little out of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the fake Kaz Hirai CEO kind of zing him? And he responded to it. I thought that was like, I thought that was really funny. He's like, if this isn't Cliffy B's first battle royale, because Lawbreakers started off with 100 players and quickly went down to 1. Oh man!
Hey now,
but you know what's interesting? Fortnite was a Cliffy B project at one time before he left the studio. So like, it's weird to see something he worked on, which was kind of the tower defense sort of gameplay of what Fortnite originally was supposed to be. Leaves, kind of does his own thing, has not very good success with his first game under his own belt. And then he kind of goes back to something he kind of was doing before. And then kind of copying what he did before, where they kind of copied PUBG. So it's weird how things have come full circle for those guys.
Yeah, I found that to be pretty interesting too. Like, so I mean, I wish him well, but he's just launching this thing on a on Steam. You know, you had to wonder will it come to Xbox eventually or whatever, because there's like a lot of these games on PC already.
But here's my thing, Crap. You have a successful guy like Cliffy B. He's a successful individual in the business. Okay, let's pay the man his respects. So he did. Why does he need to do this? These are things that ultimately leave a blemish on your unbelievable, impeccable like report card.
But
so
do you think he doesn't have a blemish already?
But the thing is, though, Don, and we all know this, whether you're an artist, whether you're somebody in software, whether you painted the Mona Lisa, you know, it doesn't matter what you've done. When you've done something that's not been great, and then you have something that is truly as great as what he created, it erases the bad. But then if you're going to continuously have bad afterwards, you become M. Night Shyamalan.
No,
you know what I mean?
I don't disagree with you there, but one of the things interesting is I just get the strange feeling, Cliffy, a lot of people have respect for Cliffy B in the development community.
That's right.
Right? But it's not that doesn't mean people want to work with him.
Understood.
It doesn't mean publishers want to work with him. So what he has to establish now, and he's kind of have to rebuild his own personal brand of who he is and basically make shit and shut the hell up is what he needs to do at this point. Because I think every time he speaks out loud, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong or completely taken out of context. I think the media has always taken what he said completely out of context. And then he's also kind of a colorful character on top of that. So that's always kind of in yesterday's environment, it worked for him. In today's environment, where people are always constantly offended at the littlest thing, like it works very much against him. So at this point, yes, I agree with you on he needs to start hitting some home runs on some good games, but at the same token, he needs to show that he can work with others before someone's willing to spend a lot of money on what their next dream project is. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think that I wish him well. Like I never wish that a developer doesn't do well. I just I think that he has that old school kind of mentality, sort of like the creator of God of War, David Jaffe, and then he released that Drawn to Death game, which really relied on stuff that you used to be able to get away with in the like early 2000s. And people weren't really receptive to it. There was a lot of goofy like jokes and kind of like sexist jokes and stuff like that, and people weren't real receptive to it. And of course, now I think that his studio's closed down and stuff like that. I don't think it had anything actually to do with that crap. When we played it, you know, we had said when we played Drawn to Death that game just didn't play very well. The mechanics were very sloppy, choppy. Then there was that on top of it. But you know what's funny? It kind of brings me to something. I love Drawn to Death. Come on. Yeah, that was a treat. Listen, you know, the thing about it was, this comes back to the thing I say all the time, and nobody ever likes to hear this, but like, just hear me out for a second. This goes to everybody in the chat too. I'm going to give you guys all the credit in the world in the chat, because if you guys are listening to this show, you guys in the chat have been playing video games for a long time. If I just showed you a quick, maybe 15 to 20 second snippet of a bunch of games that are coming out, and you know, anything from say indies to AA, and I just asked you to say, you know, thumbs up or thumbs down. We know, and I mean, we've played. There's a couple times where you're like, oh, that game might be pretty bad, and then it surprises you and it's amazing, right? I understand that can happen, but that's rare. It's rare in movies. It's rare in video games. Heck, it's rare in food. Okay, if you don't like shrimp, and someone's like, no, this pasta dish is really, really good. It's got a little bit of shrimp in it. You're like, get it away. You know what I mean? It's like, you know you don't like it. So when you see a game, like when that game came out, crap, you remember we were on Twitter and we were saying this isn't that going to be that good of a game. People are like, how dare you critique a game? We played it, though. We played it one weekend and we streamed it. We played it for like 8 hours, crap. I mean, which is probably more than most people that were defending it played it. And all I'm saying is that, can you give the benefit of the doubt to people who've been playing games for 20 plus years that we've seen a lot of games? Does it mean we're the say-all end-all? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And if we just have opinions like everybody else, just like everybody else, right? Hey, guess what? Boom, boom, kaboom! It's Noof Nukem. Oh, Noof Nukem's here. Noof Nukem. What's going on? What's up? That's right. Noof Nukem is in the room. It is Wednesday night. It is Xbox Nation. I am late, but I am never gone. Yes, let's go. What's funny is he informed us that we were the ones that invented the boom boom kaboom thing. Yeah, how did we get that? I don't know, man, but it's really funny. I was always just saying kaboom, Noof Nukem's in the room. Next couple of weeks, all I hear is crap every time I show him. He's like, boom, boom, kaboom, it's me. That's even better. I love the it's me. Please do that. If you ever come across Crossfire, will you please do it's me at the end of that? It's great. It's me. It's the real Noof Nukem. So good. As opposed to the fake Noof Nukem. So, hey, you know what's interesting? This isn't even a topic, but I sent this to Mooch. It was nice to see Xbox people already hyping up God of War. That was nice. Wasn't it? That was Isn't that so sweet? Like Stein, he's like, yes, get your axes ready, God of War. Information tomorrow. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I get it, I guess, but it's just unfortunate because nobody was like from Sony or Nintendo was like, Sea of Thieves, man, I'm hyped, or hey, Cuphead, let's go, or congratulations. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, everybody. Like, I can understand all the people that are not Xbox fans. They're like, well, they didn't congratulate Microsoft because they thought the game wasn't good. Fine, you want to say whatever you want, that's fine. But just looking at it from the outside looking in, if you have a corporate company like McDonald's and Burger King, they don't send themselves like congratulation tweets that you came out with a new secret sauce. They don't do that. Like, nobody does that. So when we say it, I know a lot of gamers are like, come on, Mooch, light a candle. You guys follow Wendy's on social media? They're always attacking McDonald's. Yeah, yeah. To answer Mr. 100, he's a little late. I can't speak for Noof or Don, but I know me and Crap have our Hellblades and ready to play it. So I believe the panel has it. If they don't, I've got it. Well, Hellhammer has it by association. Has it. Yeah. Yes. You know what's funny though was because I was scrolling through games and I was like, this is an interesting game. I don't remember pre-ordering this, and Hellhammer actually pre-ordered Vampire. Nice. When's that coming out?
I think it's coming out soon, and how I'm pre-ordered it.
It's coming out
He
soon.
also put a Bazinga sticker on my Xbox One S.
Yeah, what was that all about? Look at that laugh.
How long it would take for you to find that?
I look over, I'm like, Bazinga, what the heck? You know what I mean? So
That's
yeah,
good,
that
too.
was
That's good.
I thought that was funny, but yeah, you know, so yeah, God of War, the embargo lifts tonight, I believe, or midnight or
3:01 a.m. Eastern time.
Interesting.
What the hell?
Yeah, that is a weird time, but
Set
hey,
your
they must,
alarm clock, folks.
they must have a lot of faith in it, and as well it should. It looks like it's going to be a really good game. The first review came out yesterday, and it was because some place bought it, and they weren't given a review copy, but they bought it and played through it, and they gave it an 8.5, which I think is a really good score.
8.5 is a great score.
Yeah, that's a fantastic score. It's like, but there was a little bit of hate towards that score. For whatever reason, I don't even know, because he said the main critique was it was a little bit repetitive and stuff. Which, I mean, if that's the case, then that's the case. I don't get that. That's a bad, like, for me, 8.5. That's a fantastic score, man.
Score. Rise was repetitive and got a fucking 7 or whatever.
Well,
like a 6.5, really.
If random Joe Blow who bought it and then put the I did see it when Tim sent it out. I did see it, but if they're giving it an 8.5, I mean, guys, let's ruin it for everybody. IGN's got what, a 9.9 on the way. I mean, it's not like, this is I think somebody just said it in the chat. The meta is going to be between 92 and 97. I'll totally buy that. I mean, there's no way. I actually talked to somebody who I know is a reviewer, and just to say it clean and plain and simple, excellent. I mean, the game is not. That's why I think somebody else, Weckless, shout out to Weckless, who's a fan of the show too. Weckless said, what do you think is better, God of War or Spider-Man? Listen, guys, put the comics down for a second. Just put the comics down for a second. God of War is going to kill Spider-Man. I just really think God of War is going to be that good. So, I mean, I'm eagerly anticipating playing it. I know even Crap is. He's got the collector's edition, for crying out loud.
I do got the collector's edition pre-ordered, man. Like, you know what? I'm a collector's edition kind of guy. You know what I mean? And like, I guess if Hellheimer wants to play it, they'll have to play it after I'm done, because I buy a lot of games on PS4 physical. Right. Just because.
Yo, Mooch, Spider-Man is for the swingers.
Nice. Oh no!
Yes. So anyway, I'm looking at this particular review, and the bad for it is lackluster and repetitive combat, poor storyline dynamics, and disappointing skills tree. I mean, that kind of is what it is.
Yeah,
well,
right.
But the big question is, anyone that scores it less than a 9, are they going to be bullied into giving it a higher score?
That was
from the public. I mean, I guess that's the bottom line question, what we're dealing with, right? Is shit going to hit the fan between now and Sunday? And it's not like an 8 is a bad score, right? But that is something that I wonder if we're going to see kind of that bully mentality come back.
Yeah, because you remember when, what was it, Uncharted 4 got a 8.7?
No, got an 8.8, and then there was it got a grievance.
Yeah, so then they upped it to 9.2 or something like that.
9.0.
What's disappointing about that is, like, why can't people just have a view, as long as they can articulate why they scored at something, just let it ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, for me personally, I think the game's going to do good. Like, I think overall the game's going to get probably, I'll say, an 86 Metacritic. Like, we can go around the room and kind of do some predictions. What about you, Mooch? What do you think as far as the Metacritic overall will be?
Geez, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go moderate to high. I'm going to go 92.
Wow, 92.
Yes.
Man, you're going all in.
Crap, this isn't even this has nothing to do with my opinion on the game. This is just, have you met the industry? You've got half of Microsoft giving it a 9.7.
I mean, you're right, but I'm just being fair, man. I think 8.
Oh, you want to be
86.
fair?
Yeah, 86.
Well, I mean, from what we've seen, if it's not super repetitive, I think a 90. If you want to be fair, I mean, 86 is still very good.
86 is awesome. I think here's the thing: it's going to get some 10s, it's going to get some 9s, it's going to get some 8s. It's probably going to get a couple 7s or 7.5s. You know?
Oh, I don't know about that crap. Whoever gets 7.5 is going to have to leave the country. It's like a 7.5. I'm going to listen. If anybody sees anyone give it a 7.5 that's from a major publication, please at me on Twitter quickly. I want to follow those people because they won't be around for more than like 48 hours.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Noof? What do you think this game's going to get?
Well, first I'll say it's going to get 4 Kratos out of 5 on one foot.
Nice.
No, it's going to do well. I think it will definitely hover between the 1992, kind of as a Mooch alluded to. That was kind of where I was going. I think maybe, right now it's 8.5, but I think the majority of publications will probably love this game. Will probably rave about it. I hope it's good. And either way, anything between an 8 and a 10 is pretty outstanding score regardless. But there's going to be hate if it gets below a 9. It's going to come with the territory. It always seems to happen, especially with Sony games. I'm not sure. Didn't that happen with Uncharted 4 as well? Somebody scored it a bit lower, and then
Uncharted 4 happened. Some of the other ones too. I think The Last of Us. Someone gave that a 7.5, and you had thought that that was like just the worst thing in the world. and the funny thing is like when it comes to reviews, they're all opinion based. That's why when people go, "Hey, crap, what about that Sea of Thieves reviews?" People hate it, and I'm like, you know what? You know who likes it? Me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all opinion based. Like it doesn't like. That's the thing. Most people just will rally behind it as like the fanboy war nonsense. But the reality is everything's just opinion based on what you like yourself personally, right? So I love Sea of Thieves for my own reasons, and somebody else disliking that doesn't hurt me. It doesn't hurt my opinion on the game. I think it's great. Like if somebody scores this game, God of War 7.5, and you think it's a 10, it doesn't really, it doesn't really affect you. If you enjoy the game, then enjoy the game.
That's true. What's funny? What coming from the old school mentality? Okay, let's see what you guys think in the panel. I think a lot of you guys in the chat will agree with me too. If you go back maybe 10 years ago and you went to IGN and you saw the Polygons or whoever was still around, Game Trailers, when you saw their reviews come out, when they would all kind of be clustered kind of close to each other, right? So if you saw a game came out, didn't matter what it was, and it was getting a 7.8, an 8.1, a 7.6, you knew you were going to get a decent game. Wasn't great, but it was decent. And it was when reviews meant something. Now you're talking about like these guys all talk to each other. I don't care. Look, everybody talks to each other. Communication is so open between social media and the various other ways to get a hold of each other. So it's so open. These guys, do you see when these like scores come out now? Like they're like 9.9, 9.8, 9.89, 9.91. It's like, what you guys are trying to be different, but you're trying too hard. You're too damn close. Like there's no separation by point at all. And it's like, you know what it is? They're all on, and this is the same thing that I've been saying for a long time. Whether the media is all in or they're all out on something, they do it together. Because like what Crap just said is true. If you had the 5 of us all rate something, and then everybody in the chat was like, "You guys are crazy. This game's fun." Like, how can everybody that's up and down the West Coast all like something or all hate something, and nobody else has a different opinion on it? Nobody.
Well, if you ever been to the West Coast, it's a very much a group think mentality out there. It really is.
People, Don, because I listen, I've been out to the West Coast many, many times. I have an idea of it. I've never lived on the West Coast, but like, it's not the West Coast, East Coast thing. It's got nothing to do with that in this case. This is a media in cahoots versus that's why when you watch a PlayStation fan that has a YouTube channel or an Xbox fan that has a YouTube channel or more centric that way, that's when you get true, honest opinions. Because we'll sit here and we'll tell you what we liked and what we didn't like. And then they'll tell you what they liked and didn't like. But when you tune into Greg Miller, anybody who wants to listen to me, tune into Greg Miller tomorrow morning. You know what you're going to hear? Great, grand, wonderful. Cut. Like, that's it. What the hell happened? What was that? Like, it's going to be a 10. Then Tim Geddes is going to go on there, give it a 10.1. And then the other guy that they just hired is going to give it a 10.5. Like, it's not going to change. So when you tune in tomorrow to Kind of Funny, you're going to get a kind of shitty answer. Go ahead. Sorry, Don.
I mean, you're going to get the same answer, I think, from most people in the North Bay Area sort of region of California. I mean, and that has a huge influence. I think one of the biggest things that people have to keep in mind is a lot of development is in that neck of the woods. And so a lot of publications are in that neck of the woods by default, right? So the real problem is, if you want more diverse opinions, we need to start getting developers out of California. which forces the media types to spread out as well and get more diverse opinions across the board. But the thing is, it's since it's such a big group, and you have the loudest voice, and no one wants to be the one left out or be the one, be mobbed attacked, right?
Yeah.
Especially on social media platforms. What you have is that section of the world has huge influence over everybody else. Did we just get disconnected?
Yeah, I saw that too. No, you have to refresh your browser. No, we're okay as far as this goes.
Yeah, but anyways, I mean it has huge influence over other media outlets, right? So everyone's playing second fiddle to the Bay Area, and that's what happens. So I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to have much more of that group mentality because it is a PlayStation game. PlayStation is the hot ticket right now. Love or hate it, it just is, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and that just has huge influence.
It ticked all the boxes. It ticked all the boxes.
It ticked all the boxes. Yeah. You've got Microsoft promoting it, so it is the hottest thing.
You know what I don't understand is they're acting like we're ragging on God of War. We think it's gonna be great. I don't really get the point where they're going, oh, if it was an Xbox exclusive, they say it's great. I'm thinking it's gonna be great on PlayStation 4.
Yeah, God of War is gonna be a great game. I actually.
And this is another problem that I have. Like, if you look at Truth, like this other comment in there, he's like, because he goes, yeah, Xbox needs more single player exclusives. And I says, it's true. And PlayStation needs more multiplayer exclusives. And his response was, do they really? I'm tired of multiplayer games. They come out in droves anyway. So why is it okay to want more single player games on Xbox when there's a ton of single player multi-platform games?
Right.
But it's not okay to want more multiplayer on PlayStation? It sounds to me like there's something kind of messed up in that logic there, where it's a bit of a hypocrisy and you don't even realize it, because it's honestly, it's very hypocritical to kind of say that, to be honest. So.
Yeah, well, how many Uncharted games and there's not a co-op campaign in either one of them, but yet Gears has had it since 2006, people, and yet some people have the balls to say that Gears is a series that has grown stale. I don't hear that about Uncharted. Why is that? Somebody tell me the answer, because honestly, I'd love to know.
Well, I mean, again, that's part of that's a bit of the hypocrisy. Like, did you hear they're like, yeah, we're going to keep God of War 5 is going to be in Norse mythology too, and I'm like, they're already talking about a sequel to this God of War. Yeah, and nobody's like, when you read the comments to an article like that, nobody's like, they're already talking about another one. Let's get this one done first. They're milking it. You know what I mean? Everybody's just like, yeah, they should do this or this. It'd be great. You know what I mean? But it's like,
there's two things to do there. They're trying to get this one hyped so they can get the sales to get green light on the next sequel they want to do, right? So as a studio, so a lot of times you hear studios do that where they're trying to get the public opinion behind them, get that momentum behind them, so they can get green light of whatever project they're working on. We see this from Insomniac with Sunset Overdrive, right?
Yes.
They keep saying it. I would love doing it. And it doesn't mean there's not talks between them and Microsoft, but they're trying to use the Xbox community to really push and drive that to actually being the thing.
And it kind of works, because I remember him going, we'll do it, if we can find it. And I believe that there's some kind of publishing deal, so they can't really. But he's like, we'll do it with or without Microsoft. You know what I mean? Like, they want the fans to pressure Phil and Microsoft into doing a sequel. And I can see why. Like, I like that game. And the funny thing is that was our Spider-Man, and people largely didn't buy it.
Yeah. So, well, people just put that game on the back burner. That's the problem. It didn't get enough hype.
Yeah. Well, if you look at when it came out, man, 2014, around a lot of stuff that holiday. Yeah, kind of a tough sell.
Well, it wasn't just that. That was also Microsoft at its worst spot.
Yeah, that's another thing. 2014 wasn't a very good year for Microsoft.
But one thing I just wanted to say in terms of reviews, guys, and this is something a lot of people never seem to think about or put into perspective, right? And first of all, I'll take the word of a lot of the YouTuber reviews long before I think I'll take the word of these so-called paid professionals. And the reason why, and again, coming from a radio background and knowing that your revenue is driven by advertising, a lot of times I can't 100% take what they say seriously from the big outlets, because they make money from the big companies, the companies that spend the advertising dollars on their page. And we've seen this in the past. We've seen it back in the old days, even with publications. I remember going back to the 80s when and early 90s when it was EGM versus GamePro. That was pretty much the two biggest magazine publications on the planet at the time. And I remember how EGM at one point had a pile of advertisements pulled. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Acclaim, but they pulled a bunch of advertisements because they didn't like the review scores they were given. And what happened eventually was you started noticing that GamePro was getting all these early reviews. Like they'd have their stuff up like a month in advance, and EGM wouldn't. And EGM came out and made a statement saying, we are not going to sacrifice our integrity for the fact of getting these advertisement dollars. And as much as it sucks, like they value their integrity with the reviews and honest reviews, but it cost them in the end because a lot of these companies were holding back their copies from sending them to them. So the other publications eventually were getting the scoops ahead of them because of that. But kudos to them. And I used to love their review system because they always had like 3 or 4 people do the review, and it was good because you'd see a couple people give it a 9, you'd see a couple people maybe 7.5, but then you could kind of do a lot of averages, and then you basically go with your favorite reviewer. And if they kind of aligned with the way that with your sort of sensitivities toward a game, then you kind of said, well, okay, well, Susie X, for example, he gives it a 9. I like the kind of games he's into and the kind of games he plays. So for me, okay, I'm going to go with sort of his take on it. You know what I mean? I like that.
Did they also have like what their favorite games were? So you kind of had an idea of which ones they liked, so you didn't have to go digging back to that one.
They had a profile that would say like sports games, like racing games. And they generally, when they reviewed stuff, they were given games that they generally were prone to playing. You know what I mean? So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Like, here's the thing. I'm very excited for this game. I would love to see Insomniac, because again, they were talking about Sunset Overdrive again. They're like, yeah, we can't really do a 4K update. Unfortunately, we're working on Spider-Man, but we do have ideas for a sequel to Sunset Overdrive. And then you have everybody @and Phil on Twitter. You know what I mean? Right. I feel like, I don't know, like you could do so much with a sequel to that game. You could add, different outfits and loot boxes and a team that would be a good game to do a PUBG style mode with. Or
heck yeah,
that would work really well.
Like
Battle Royale.
Yeah, like you know what, you could do so much with that. I think Microsoft is really kind of letting one kind of slide by them because that was a good thing. You do that game was realistically one of my favorite games this generation. It was just missing a co-op campaign and a multiplayer.
That's what Microsoft does nowadays. They let stuff just slide by. They're like, yeah, there's an opportunity.
But it's interesting.
Just watch it.
It's interesting because they have Game Pass, and the whole idea behind Game Pass is, and they refer to it, not me, as the Netflix of gaming. But the Netflix has a lot of content. You know what I mean? They're always like, we got this week, and I know it didn't start out that way, and I'm hoping that they're sowing the seeds with Game Pass for next gen, because that makes a lot of sense. Like I've been talking about how if the next Xbox comes out in 2020, basically what you're going to see is Game Pass launch with Forza Motorsport 8, Gears 5, Fable 4, and that's a really good value at that point, right? People would go, hey, I can buy the hardware,
right,
and I can get these games for $10 a month. Like I think that's when Game Pass really takes off.
That's the thing, Crap. And I mean, you're 100% right. And I know you don't always like my reference here, but you get it at least. Is right now we're in the What About Bob stage of Netflix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing right now.
Early on, that was one of the movies on there. Was What About Bob? Good movie.
Like, What About Bob? It is a good movie, but it was all they had at Netflix when streaming first started, and everybody was still waiting in line for their queues for their Blu-ray discs to show up. So their streaming service was really, really lagging. They didn't have anything, and it was just blah, 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 blah. I think you could watch reruns of Price is Right is what they had on after What About Bob. And it was like nothing was on there, right? So now, they knew they had to make internal studios, make their own content, buy rights to other things like Friends, etc. And now they've got something cooking. And that's what we believe from rumors, murmurs, this, that, things we're hearing, that what Phil is doing right now is they're working very hard with the Capcoms and the Segas and internally and having studios. And they're probably going to have things like Telltale. And they're going to have stuff that's just mind-blowing. Because think about it, Crap. In 2 years, if 2020 is when the next console is released, that's a lot of time for these contracts to all roll into place. And just the minute they launch that SOB, that thing is just going to be Game Pass is going to be a plethora of video games for $10 a month, and then you'll have the Netflix of today.
Yeah, and that's what it should be, because it's funny is like Grave, who usually does podcasts with us sometimes. he has Game Pass, and like he's more what I would consider a casual, like, you know, he's not in the know as much as we are on a lot of this stuff. So he always asks me, hey, like Hellblade came out, he goes, is that in Game Pass? And I was like, no, man. You know what I mean? I felt bad.
I feel bad because he's asked like 8 different new games that come out. We're like, nope, not that one either.
It was like basically Game Pass, what it is right now is old games and new Xbox exclusives.
You know what I would like as a good solution towards Game Pass is these games that they have marketing deals, and there's rumors going around regarding the C3, but you know, at least put those ones that you have marketing deals in Game Pass for like a month or 2. And I think when we are going to see, you know, State of Decay, we're going to see Crackdown 3 in Game Pass. I think we're going to see something similar to what we saw with Sea of Thieves. It seems like Game Pass didn't hurt sales.
Oh,
yeah,
right. It actually helped to a certain degree, right? So if they can convince those people with that, say, hey, part of the deal, we're going to put you in this, and we found it actually helps with sales instead of taking away, and it makes it so your game can find an audience, because that's what the industry is really hurting right now. So, you know, a lot of like new IPs, not a lot of new IPs have been very successful because gamers got, from last generation to this generation, we got stuck in this weird rut where we kept going back to the same games as gamers.
Yes.
And we didn't want to try out these new games. We said we wanted, but weren't willing to do it. And we're still stuck in that weird sort of mode. So what I look at Game Pass gets gamers just to try it. Download it, try it.
Yeah.
If you love it, then maybe in a month or 2, when it goes off, you're just like, damn, I didn't have enough time to go through, say, whatever the next Witcher sequel is going to be, right? You know, and I really want to buy that game. You know, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, and not only that, Don, but somebody was talking to me on Twitter today, like they were a little bit disappointed in the Xbox exclusives, and that Crackdown 3 is a meme at this point. And I said, you know what's going to save Crackdown 3 is if people play it in Game Pass and they really like it. You know, I think that this game could live up to the hype if it has that multiplayer mode with full destructible environments. If that's true, which I've heard they have it, that Wrecking Ball mode or whatever it is, and it works great. If that's accurate, then that game's going to be a big success, and people are going to at least try it in Game Pass. Because I have heard that people are canceling their Game Pass. You know, the ones that are unhappy with Sea of Thieves, which you know, I mean. The Sea of Thieves thing kind of is what it is. It's a really chill game. It's not going to be for everybody like every other game in the world.
Right.
You know, I'm not sure exactly what people expected. Is like you play the beta is like that you do what you do in that game.
Which is totally fine though. Microsoft knows they have to continue to earn their customers to keep them back, right? So that's the reason why they have their exclusives there. So okay, so Sea of Thieves was a dud for you as a gamer. That's fine. Like but it's still finding its audience. It's still going to continue to grow because of Game Pass. And those people that want to come back when, you know, State of Decay, they're like, damn, well, they got me again for at least another $10, right?
Yeah.
You know, or when Crackdown, they got me again for another $10. And then you keep having those situations. Then what ends up happening is just like Game Pass starts slowly becoming a habit for those people.
Or they forget to unsubscribe to it, and it just keeps on going. I mean,
the old gym membership idea.
Yeah, or you just get used to having that library there, and it's like, oh, I want to get to that game. Oh, my subscription's up. Maybe I'll renew it for another month, right? So I can get through some of those games. So
it's like I signed up to CBS, whatever that is, to watch that Star Trek series, and I still haven't unsigned up, even though I think it's off. Whatever. It just keeps billing me every month.
Game Pass is still in its infancy. It will improve. It will get better. You have to give it time. Netflix wasn't the Netflix of today was not the Netflix it started with, but over time they add a lot more content with more revenue. They continue to build, and it's no different. And you know, and it's genius with Game Pass because look, if you look at it and compare it to the movie industry, right? How many times do you talk to your friends and say, "Did you go see this movie at the theater?" And most of your friends, if they're like mine, they say, "No, you know, I didn't go see that movie at the theater because you know I really can't afford to go see the movies I want to see, right? I can't afford to go to as many as I'd like." So they pick one and select one, right? So I mean, it's the same thing with games. The average gamer very few people like on this panel. I think we're the exception to the rule, but most people cannot afford to buy all the games that they want, and it's an incredible value. It's an incredible selection for them who are there are still people going back. There are 13 to 12-year-old kids and even 17 to 20-year-olds who are probably picking up an Xbox for the first time who've never even played half of the 360 games that we talk about and love so much. It is true. It gives them access to an instant library. There is no way to spin bad shit on Game Pass. It's not like getting Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, Crackdown, and those games right out of the box. I mean, already pay for itself. There just is no bad way to spin it. It's a service to consumers. It's a service to people on a budget. It is just an awesome thing that you have to commend Microsoft, because that was a ballsy effing move.
Oh yeah,
kudos to them to do that and to give gamers that choice. I mean PlayStation not doing it.
I do want to say this much though, from a business standpoint, is I still think that Game Pass could have been all of that, and they still could have waited 3 months to release their first party titles until it went in there. Because to be honest with you, that's one of the perks. Like, I mean, EA Access, they're like, hey, get EA Access and you can play the games we give you when we want to give them to you, and new games at 10% off. And you're like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, everyone was kind of okay with that. So Microsoft could up the ante, because listen, the media, the streaming, the hype behind all of these new games, they could have double dipped. They could have capitalized on the purchase the first month or two, and then throw it. And they could even make the announcement: we are putting all of our first party games into Game Pass 30 days after release. Boom! And you drop the mic. You make it sound like you're the balls. You're the one that made this up, right? You did this. And then you still have people that are like, I'm going to wait, but no, I'll go buy it because the media is talking about it now. I want to stream it with my friends. I want to be a part of the in the now crowd. And they could have doubled. And then people would hold on to it because they would have said, oh, you know what? Some people will wait the 30 days. Now you've lost a little bit of that capital. And I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me. So who knows? They may, someone from Microsoft might go, here, Mooch, here's the actual spreadsheet. As you can see, it's the same shit. Okay, maybe you're right. But I don't know that. But I would think that they could have double dipped, and they really would have satisfied a bunch of different things internally, and it makes the name a little bit more relevant. I think all of these ideas that Microsoft had with Play Anywhere, Game Pass, games are gamers, gamers and games. It's all great. Everything sounds great. You get a free candle with the next the State of Decay 2 package. Like, you get all these great things from Microsoft, but the point of the matter is that they threw it all at us in 18 months, and it was like, guys, calm down. You didn't have to do all that. And what it did was it did kind of leave a watermark on your name. And I think it diluted it a touch. They saturated themselves.
I think Game Pass is going to find its niche. I'm not sure exactly when. It could be next generation. And I think that'd be fine with Microsoft. Did you see they're doing like the free gold as well? Yeah. With Game Pass right now, which I think is interesting. They don't do any promotion for anything, which is so weird.
Wait, so what's the deal now? If you get a year of Game Pass?
If you buy Game Pass, you get gold. I don't know how much gold it is, but you get free Xbox Live Gold or something. So
Game Pass free trial. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at the chat here. Does anybody know what that is? That'd be cool. Is it you get the gold for a year? Is it 3 months?
I think it might be a month or 3. I think it depends. So I'm not 100% sure, but they were. It just shows up on the dashboard randomly. So
gold for a month is like
kind of a bundle between the two, right? Like, you can buy whatever 6 months along with Game Pass, and you kind of get a break on both. That would be good.
Like, I have a feeling they're going to do some sort of bundle deal in which we've had, like, we've crossed 500 viewers. Please hit that like button. Let's see if we can't get up to over 200, guys. Come on.
There's some people in the chat that are just like, they're obviously not a fan of Game Pass, and for some reason all I can think of is Gandalf going, these games shall not pass.
Well, I mean, look, it's a growing service. It's an option. Nobody in the industry is saying that we're going to lose our physical or digital ownership. Everybody's like,
it could be worse. You could be streaming your games, right?
Yes, exactly. And Don, like, here's the thing, right? You're a developer, and I've talked to other developers too, and I asked them, because Xbot, that dude is just like, we're gonna be all streaming. That's the only choice we're ever gonna have.
Yeah, that's actually one of the first fights we had before we even podcast with one another, to be honest with you.
He's just like, that's the way we're going. That's what everybody wants. And you really made a good point as to why that's not necessarily the case, because a lot of people assume that it's going to be cheaper for developers to do it that way, and you're like, no, it's not true.
No, it's not, but there's money being made there, right?
Yeah.
You have servers that can be utilized, and there's going to be a certain segment of customers that care about latency, and there's some that just not going to care. And there's certain game types that will do better with streaming than others, right? Like a fighter's not going to do very well with streaming. We all know that. Like shooters are probably not going to do very well with streaming, no matter how good they get it, because it's quicker for electricity to pass on a little circuit board than it is across the country or wherever the server farm is, right? So
you would have to, like, it's basically double the thing because you're streaming the game and you're also online.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, but I look at it, streaming where you can get different types of games as well. Though, if you think about like a turn-based RPG, you can crank up the graphics to a crazy level and not have to worry about the limitations of the hardware that's under your television, because it's not about latency. It's you go, I go. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, and you can have this super crazy in-depth looking game that can be run on a remote server. So, and then the economics are just different. Like, you have to have like 6 times the power than what your local hardware is just to run the game, because what they do is what they call predictive rendering. Yeah. So they'll predict the next frames that need to be rendered, and they'll render them in advance. Right. Well, that's not free power. It doesn't come out of nowhere, right? So they have to tie up whatever horsepower they have in a server farm to make all that work. So there's money to be made there. It's not going to be the new dominant. Is just going to be another option for people to play.
Do you think, Don? Do you think that's going to be more of a thing for like casual people that they're aiming for, not the more hardcore? Because I just don't see hardcore people. I don't know anybody that uses PlayStation Now. To be honest with you,
I tried it out and it was awful.
Yeah,
I couldn't even load it. So
I've tried it out on Google Fiber and it still wasn't great. And it's one of the best services out there. That being said, right? So like it's. Streaming can get better. It can continue to improve, but at the same token, it will always place second pedal to hardware under your TV, though.
The one thing I always get confused on a lot of the shows that we all do is everybody starts taking the idea of going with, not going physical disc, and immediately within usually about like 20 seconds, somehow it automatically gets transferred into streaming of games. I think you're talking about, there's 2 different subjects here, folks. We're talking about, are we leaving physical disc, and then we're going to get into like what we're doing now, where we're buying digital games and then you're playing them at 12:01 a.m. There's that, and then there's the subject of streaming games. Like I think we always go right from physical disc being eliminated that we're streaming games next week. That is way different.
People make that jump though, because that's the jump that happened with the physical media as far as like Blu-rays and DVDs and that sort of thing. A lot of people just jump straight to streaming and not downloaded anything. But there's a big difference between streaming a video and something that needs input and output on both ends. Like, that's a big difference.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Like, we can all kind of appreciate the ability to watch something streaming or to listen to our music on demand streaming that's not taking up a lot of bandwidth. We aren't interacting with that per se. When it comes to gaming, you're doing a lot of interaction with that. And so that's why I think that I'm okay with that as far as an option, because that's an option now that nobody uses on PlayStation.
Well, the thing is, it takes less bandwidth to download the game onto your system than it is to stream a game for that period of time. So there's economics to that. Like, as I said, there is money to be made. Like, I'm not going to say that there isn't. It's kind of that low-hanging fruit. But the reality is, I think where the gamers that we talk to, and the gamers we interact with and stuff like that, the people who look for gaming news, those people really are where they're going to benefit is kind of more of a hybrid, like more like a pillar, where you have cloud compute assisting whatever hardware you have under your television. And that's just going to be just as much as a pillar as a GPU, CPU, RAM, all that sort of stuff. At one point, we're going to get that as gamers, which is going to be good for people listen to us and people that we interact with. But the pure streaming thing is it's just something different. It's just one more other option. Yeah. And I think the other thing is people, where Mooch kind of touched on, is developers. They have some growing pain issues, right? And one of them is physical copies. Physical copies, they don't make as much money on a physical copy, and then it gets passed around, at a local GameStop, and they don't see any of that cut. right? And so we're starting to see that slowly disappear for them. So the fact that people are just buying games digitally takes care of that problem for them. And people don't realize that streaming is not necessarily just going to take care of that. It's one more option, but it's not going to. The problem's already taken care of before then.
Yeah,
and so people just don't.
Digital. Yeah,
yeah. And if you look up Phil, right? Like when he tweeted like the option, I think it was to Tim Dog or something like that. That something about streaming, but he also mentioned that also doing cloud compute in conjunction with local hardware. He made sure to include both of those because they want all those options to be a solution for gamers. So
yeah, you know what, and I think that's smart. Like somebody's like, "Hey, you're a smart guy in the chat, chased it," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're a developer." So that's why I like having Don on. He's a very level-headed guy, not a console war guy. He's a developer. No. He knows his stuff. So it's always good to have that, like a professional. I agree. AK Relapse, he says, pay the bills. Would Microsoft use Game Pass for early or exclusive access to multiplayer betas for new first-party IP? I mean that's interesting. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't either. I mean, that would give a reason for hardcore gamers to purchase into it. You know.
Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe they should reconfigure. You know all those games that go in that early access stuff. You should try to strike a deal and get all that stuff over under Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean,
people paying for individual.
That would actually be a good idea.
That'd be great.
I thought I just said that.
Yeah.
Me. I'm not paying attention. Me. Hey, it's Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day.
I'll give you credit, man.
No, I mean, it's like there's a lot of opportunity there. But if you look, okay, so they launched Sea of Thieves and Game Pass last month, and then this month it's like indies and some small games. Like there's some good stuff in there for sure. I heard good things about RoboCraft. And City Skylines is a fantastic game, but that's like a specific type of gamer that's going to enjoy that game, and so you go from a good month where you drop a new exclusive to a month where it's like some older games and some smaller games, and then next month, of course, State of Decay 2. So I think eventually Microsoft's going to have to come to the point where they have something new every month, to keep people kind of coming back, and I think that's probably what they're building up to, and right. I think they're interested to see how Game Pass subscriptions go up when they drop a Gears or a Halo in there.
Oh yeah.
I think the question is not just something new every month, but something that has legs, right? Like so you can have a 2 or 3 month gap if you have several good games that have legs that you can't finish in a week, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. You have to have that variety.
State of Decay 2 like that, right? Or like how Sea of Thieves was supposed to be. But like it got kind of eviscerated in the media and by Xbox fans. You know what I don't understand, Don, is this, right? You don't like the game, so let's go out of our way to bash it for weeks on end, right?
That just means you don't have. That means you have no games to play. I mean, that's all that means in my mind. And there's a certain point where we all know the people that contradict themselves, and you start thinking, why am I listening to you? And that's the thing is if you want a voice amongst developers, amongst publishers, and the big platform providers, you have to be consistent in what you're saying. You can't have these contradictions because at a certain point, I look at certain people in the community. It's not that I dislike them or anything like that. I kind of have to categorize them just like, okay, they're one of these people that contradict each other. They just like to stir up the pot or whatever, right? And nothing against them, but their opinion and their view doesn't have the same weight as say someone else that can articulate their opinion and be consistent in what they're telling you, because then like that's a customer I can satisfy. This other customer, I can't help them. They're on their own. So what am I going to do with that guy? So it's important for people to stay consistent in what their messaging is and what they like and what's going on. And that's why I don't have any problems when people have bad views about games that I enjoy. Like I know you and Dealer had a conversation about Sea of Thieves, but like, I'm not against Dealer's review, of the game because he spent his own money, tried the game, he put hours into the game, right?
Yeah.
And the game was lacking in areas of certain things he personally enjoys about game. And he's not saying it's a crap game or anything like that. Everything he spoke was from a truthful standpoint. He wasn't trying to
on his point of view, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can respect that when someone gives a point of view that that's well articulated, even if it's one I don't agree with, but they can articulate points that are solid, then yeah, I'll hear them out for sure.
It's been said from the dawn of time that people always want things they can't have. But the thing is with video games, yes, you can have it. So stop whining and bitching about it. If, you know, most people just, again, they spend so much time, so much of their energy trying to bring down these games that, you know, probably deep down inside they would actually like to play, but it's not on their preferred console. So they just gotta, you know, they gotta go with the ship, they gotta go with the hype train, and they gotta, you know, make sure that the hate boat stays afloat. You know what I mean? That's how they roll. They just can't give another company cred or just say, you know what, that game. I mean, everybody, look, if you can't afford all your consoles, cool, I can understand that. That's the most legitimate reason why you're not playing the game. But if you can't afford them, then shut the hell up and go out and buy the damn console, play the game and enjoy it, and stop listening to the toxic asshats. I mean, that's bottom line.
Well, for me personally, it was like, you know, you always had the option to try it with Game Pass and see if it was your cup of tea, right? Like that's just like, that would make the most sense. If you're unsure about the game, play it on Game Pass, see if it's your cup of tea. If it is, then play it. If it's not, then don't play it. But you know what? I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Inside Xbox, the second episode. Now, a lot of us were critical of this, the first episode, right? Even me, like I was especially critical. It was 2 hours. It was really just like awkward and mostly just Sea of Thieves stuff. And we were kind of, and then like within the next few days, they announced, oh, here's a collector's edition for State of Decay 2. Oh, we're going to be at E3 in our own theater this time. Oh, we got this going on. Like, why wasn't that stuff announced at the show? Right. And so now they streamlined the shows down to about 1.5 hours. And what they did was really kept the pace smooth, and they kicked it off with what they should have, which was this really big backwards compatibility announcement, which of course, the people right away, you're going to have some people go, old games, who cares? But it's like options, and them doing these backwards compatible games.
Best new Xbox games, old games.
Well, hold on.
Hammer.
I know, right? So the funny thing is this, right? You don't have to play them. Them giving us these games aren't stopping their developers from making other games, people. It's like people don't correlate that, oh, okay, they can do this, or they can release a controller, and that's not stopping them. Like, they don't have one developer going, I'm going to make this game. Wait, hold on, I got to stop this game right now because I got to make this game backwards compatible. Hold on, I got to put that on the back burner because I'm building this controller by hand, right? It doesn't work like that. You have different sets of people.
Self-sustaining departments.
Yes.
So like, what one does, it doesn't affect the other, right? So, like, yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing. Let me just interject here for a second. The thing about it is I can't argue with Crap. You know, Crap wrote me right away. He goes, well, Mooch, you have to admit it's better. It was better, okay? But if you got a D+ the first time and then you're up to a C-, it's better, right? But it's not good.
I would have gave it a B, to be honest.
No, I'm not giving it a C-. I'm just using an example. They were where they, you know, if you ask most people, they would have given it an F or a D last time. I'm not saying it was a C. Maybe it was a B. So that's fine. But I mean, realistically, first of all, stop with the 2 hours. Just stop it with the 2 hours.
Yeah, it was 1.5 hours. So
it's a coma. Crap. They put us in a coma. And listen, there's nobody, you guys know this, anybody who watches MNC, Crossfire, Xbox Nation, or anything else I do any guest appearances on, you know that I love the zombie genre. I absolutely love it. So with The Walking Dead, when they showed it, I was like, this is great. It is absolutely great. And I love that it showed a 4-player co-op, reminding me of Left 4 Dead. So I'm like, oh, I'm in. And then the guy at the end, he actually asked a good question. So when can we expect a release date or something else? And the guy's like, we have nothing to announce right now. So basically what that was literally a 10-minute filler of just another cutscene that we saw from the first cutscene that was released 2 months ago. So what I'm saying is that a lot of what you watched the other day or yesterday, whatever it was yesterday, was just a lot of filler. That show was about 35 minutes long in reality. That's all it needed to be. And
I don't know.
Come on, Crap. An hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes of that paisley suit he was wearing. I can't take that shit.
I think the first episode was about the equivalent of watching Pope, and the second episode was pretty much like watching Pope with the peanuts. That's my equivalent of it all.
Well, I mean, hold on. Here's the thing. They kick it off with because some of the backwards compatibility stuff leaked right away, right? They're like, okay, some of it leaked and people think that that's going to be it, but no, they kind of really surprised everybody with these games. Blinks the Time Sweeper, Breakdown, Conquer Live and Reloaded, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, Hunter the Reckoning, Jade Empire, Panzer Dragoon Order, XSX3, Destroy All Humans, Full Spectrum Warrior, Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, MX Unleashed, Panzer Elite Action, Star Wars Battlefront, Battlefront 2, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, Star Wars Starfighter, KOTOR 2, Star Wars Republic Commando, which is a phenomenal game, and it still looks good, and I think it's widescreen and everything. So not only that, but these games,
rare games that I think was almost like HD or like 720 at the time.
Yeah, and these games are like 4K. They look so much better. They're showing the comparison videos, and they look amazing. So I think that really surprised a lot of people, because if you notice, we aren't getting a lot of good Star Wars games right now. It's kind of in flux. So to see that all these great Star Wars games are announced and coming, if you don't want to play them, great. But you know what? Like some of these games, I think Republic Commando came out 2002 or 2003. Like maybe someone that wasn't old enough to play it then, but maybe wants to play a good Star Wars game for a change.
Crap, how long can we keep saying that? I mean, well, listen, me and you weren't around for like, the old Pong where it was just like two rectangles in a circle. I don't need to relive that.
Do you not think it's good to take your back catalog with you?
Yes.
Not only that, but I have to say that wasn't the only thing. They announced that they also increased they did the X enhancements for 6 other Xbox 360 games, including Red Dead Redemption, which this game in 4K looks like a current generation game.
I was blown away by it when I looked at it. I was like, wait, that's fucking a 360 game? Like, yes. That was crazy.
It's amazing. I played this game for 5 hours today. And so those of you that don't know, I didn't play this game very much when it came out. I was more into other games, and so I have it, and it looks amazing. Also, Portal 2, Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, Sonic Generation, Gears of War 2 is in 4K, folks.
Yeah,
that's great.
Nice.
And Darksiders, which is interesting because Darksiders got a remastered that's not 4K, and this one's in 4K. So that's weird. You know what I mean?
That's what I said earlier today. I was like, wait, Darksiders, because I said that popped up in the list. And I was like, why is Darksiders enhanced, but not the remaster?
Yeah, it's like that whole Halo 3 thing, too, as well, anniversary and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. So I thought that was cool. They give people some options if you don't want to play it, cool. But you know what? A game like Red Dead Redemption, which is one of the biggest games of all time, like in terms of scope and just people enjoying it, right? That game's not on PC. So the de facto version right now is Xbox One X. People are talking about, I see it. I wouldn't be surprised if this game hits on Amazon again or something, because this game looks amazing in 4K, and you'll always get to take it with you in 4K now. And they don't even have to I don't understand the wizardry that they do with this because they don't touch the code apparently. But these games look amazing. There's not jaggies. There's none of that stuff. It looks like a current gen game. I'm playing it and I'm like, I can really get into this. You know what I mean? I missed this the first time around. So I think that's great. And it's an option. It's not stopping them from making new games. It's not saying you have to go back and play it, but you have that option to go back and play some of these games. Maybe it's your favorite game.
Crap, from a consumer standpoint, it holds complete water. You're 100% right. There's not even a but or an argument there. The only thing that you do have to understand is we are in a different state of mind. And shout out to, Hebot. There's a couple people in the chat that are saying like, I know that, and I watch you guys that all do your older play videos, and I think they're great, to be honest with you. I say keep that up, by the way. Please don't ever stop, because that retro gaming is like the History Channel for video games. I think you guys do a better job than any of the people that have media outlet channels with 8 million subscribers and this and that. These guys do a better job. But my whole thing about it is that I lived through all that. And to be honest with you, I think I speak for myself, gamers, and sports fans. We live in the "what have you done for me lately" era. And I mean, there's people who like NFL football. NFL football, listen, gamers can even relate to NFL football, because not only is Madden a huge seller, but like everyone seems to like football. And if your team won the Super Bowl 3 years ago, you're already pissed off. You haven't made it back yet. So it's "what have you done for me lately?" So what happens is you got Microsoft getting on once a month, and for 2 months they're talking about the past. And it's like, okay, no, that's great. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the fan service. I truly do. But we would like to see something new, and especially me. Crap, we've been playing since the 80s. Like, to sit here and tell me that I can't wait to play a 2003 game. I'm not saying you aren't. I'm not saying that I might not want to dabble.
I put 5 hours into that today, so I mean.
Well, but you have to understand, Crap. I remember what I always say. I usually remove everybody on the panel from the tally count because you guys are in the hardcore. There's hardcore and there's hardcore.
I saw a lot of people playing that game today. I also saw a lot of PlayStation. I also saw a lot of PlayStation fans wishing that they had this. I'm just saying.
Well, that's fine. But Crap, what I'm saying is we've had this conversation 8 times, and then a week later you go, all right, Mooch, you were right. Like, the first day it's announced, second day, everybody plays it, and then a week later, nobody's playing it.
But still, it depends on the game. And I think that if you go back on Black Ops 2, there's still a lot of people on that. I'm just saying, like, it depends on the game. And I think that, like, you're like, show us something new. Well, they did. We're getting State of Decay 2 in like a month. And then it'll be on to, the next game. And then it'll be on to, the next game. Like,
the idea of owning our old games is actually better than owning the old games. Because, I mean, look at the Super Nintendo Classic. I was just recently having this conversation with a friend of mine. It's like, I was like, did you get an NES Classic? He's like, yeah. He goes, but I haven't really played it. And I was like, yeah, I bought mine too. I think I played it all like 2 hours maybe. And then I talked to somebody else with the same things. Like, everybody went out and bought them. It was this biggest selling thing last year. Like, again, crazy sales. But then you're talking to people and they're like, no, don't really play it. It's like, it's that thing no matter where you go, right?
Thank you. And that's all I'm saying is what Noof just said, and he just used it with a different piece of tack. But he's not wrong. Like, that's what I'm saying. Crap always says to me, the day it comes out, I'll say this statement to Crap. We've had this conversation like 8 times now. And he'll go, well, Mooch, I saw like 20 people playing it today or 100 people playing it. And I'm like, yeah, I know you did. It was announced yesterday. But in 10 days, remember that day? Remember when, what was it there? Ninja Gaiden Black came out and the other one there? Everybody was on it for 3 days. Now nobody's on it. And it's like, what do these people take their discs and go pull and then shoot it? No, they didn't. They still... Right, they still have them, but
I think it depends on the type of gamer. I see people play different games, and then we do have some numbers in February of this year. Actually, 840 plus million hours of Xbox 360 games played on Xbox One. So almost 1 billion hours of 360 games played on Xbox One. I mean, that's more than just people playing something for a day and then stopping. Because to be honest with you, I played that. I'll play some of the backwards compatible stuff that comes out on Games with Gold. I played, believe it or not, I played that. What the hell is that game, Hellhammer, with the redhead? Brave. Yeah, I beat that game, right? I just kept getting further and further in that game, and it kept giving me achievements. And then next thing you know, 4 hours later, I beat the game with like 800 gamer score. So, I mean, look, there's always...
Yeah, I literally walked in, and I'm like, were you playing Brave?
Yes, I was playing Brave.
We're also in a generation of games that has evolved a lot in the last 15 years, like it or not. It has really evolved because even in the 360 era, we didn't get games at the same pace, at the same level that we're getting them right now in the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 era. I mean, because we're not only talking about the big AAA releases where we're starting to see them now from January right on through the entire year. We're getting like indie games and stuff like constantly, like every couple days, there's like a massive amount of games. I mean, somebody tweeted Mike Ibarra or something the other day. They had 1,000 games, 1,000 on their Xbox. I'm like, what? That is insane. Like that.
Yeah. Well, dude,
that's the difference, right?
I have like 600 or something, dude.
That's insane. Like, how do you keep up with that, right? And then when we had a Genesis and Super Nintendo, you bought one game every 3 months, and you're lucky one.
What we do is we just scroll through the list, and we're like, "There's nothing to play."
Yes, that's basically what happens.
We play something that we played like a million times before. That's what happens.
I mean, it's like, or I'll be like, "Hey, today's the day. I'm gonna finally play through this," and then somebody will be like, "Yo, let's do some Sea of Thieves or let's do some PUBG."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so that's what happens, man. I'm a multiplayer guy.
I think a lot of people are fall into that category, especially on Xbox. Crap, I agree with you, and that's what ends up happening. It's like, listen, as far as Phil's original statement back in 2014, where he said your games should go with you wherever you go, no matter when you bought them. I can't argue that. That's very consumer friendly. And yes, I bought the game, so I should be able to play the games, but I can't say that the minute that they were done with, the Inside Xbox show that I ran and popped in, Red Dead. I know you did, but like, I just like
actually, the first thing I did was try to pop in Republic Commando, but then I noticed that it wasn't going to get backwards compatible for another week. So
Right.
Look, I'll use a food analogy. Video games are like our favorite box of chicken. You appreciate all the pieces, but at the end of the day, you always prefer that nice succulent breast, right?
Well, some people, I guess, but some people like the higher legs. I mean, I guess it just depends.
Well, I kind of come at this at a different angle than the rest of you guys. Like, I look at it as, games are an investment. They're $60 typically for a AAA title, right? And anywhere from $20 to something as indie that you buy digitally. And they're investments. So those investments should go along with you. And I think that's what the message is very clear. So when you're showing that, hey, your backwards compatible matters, what you're also showing is when you want to continue to invest in a Microsoft platform, your games come with you. Also, it makes it harder for you to leave that platform. And Mooch can probably testify to this. He's a big Apple guy. If you wanted to go Samsung Galaxy right now,
no way.
Even if it was a little bit in him, he would have such a hard time leaving that ecosystem. Right?
Don, you're 110% right. What they're doing is they're solidifying you as a customer for ages, because if you've got 3 generations, why would you now all of a sudden want to skip over to Sony when you're like, my God, this company's letting me take everything with me. I don't want to bring all of that digital software with me. And you're right. The Apple comparison is actually fantastic. I bought everything on iTunes. We've got the entire, I don't mean my family. I mean, everyone I've ever met pretty much I've talked to, we're all Apple. Everything is all, so it's all connected. So even if I did want to leave to go to a different company, it's really, I don't care what they got. Even if they have a floating stylus, it doesn't interest me, because all the work I'd have to do to transfer everything over, it's not worth it. It's just not. And you're right, Don. You're right.
And you would lose it, right? So that's the thing. So that's why I think what they're setting up is this, whole generational console thing. It's gone, I think, for Microsoft. I really believe that's the direction they're going. All their development kits are going kind of that way. And so as we go forward, it really doesn't matter if someone decides to upgrade to their hardware or not. It doesn't hurt them in any sort of way. As long as you have what keeps you engaged with Microsoft, keeps you buying games, keep you buying services with them, that's all they care about. And so that's what all this stuff is doing. It's also sending just a clear message too. Let's say you're, let's use on Sony's side for example. Let's say we're a God of War fan, right? You never played any of the titles, and latest God of War comes out, and you know what? Everyone's talking about, I'm going to buy it. Well, you're less hesitant not to buy it if you know you can get all the previous God of Wars as well, because if you get into that, you're going to be like, well, I want to try out these other ones as well. So there is that value that is there both forwards and backwards as far as that goes. And I don't disagree with people do kind of they get into the nostalgia and then they're kind of done with it. I get that, but the same token, I will never give up my Gears collection. I want to play those. I play those games over and over again all the time, 1 through 4, not a problem.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. Nobody can really argue with backwards compatibility. I see people in the chat going, nobody can really argue against it. Hey, it's a good option. Hey, we're close to 200 likes. Let's get over to 200 likes. Let's get it, folks. Let's get it done. We got over 500 watching. It's good. It's good to take your games with you. Mooch, pop in Red Dead Redemption, and you're gonna be like, wow. It looks.
Oh no! Listen, everything you're saying, and I like what you said in the chat. You're like, there is no legit argument. There isn't an argument. There really isn't. The only thing I'm only discussing the amount of hype, because they announced it, and then did they expect us to tip cars over and light things on fire?
I saw a lot of people flipping out. I saw a lot of people really excited by this. Right? This is
but those are the same people that show up at a concert and light a match and pass out in the aisle.
Some of these people are ones that complain that there's no games or whatever. So I think that it's a good thing, and it's not that we still have all the same game. Here's the thing: when people go, they're giving us old games because there's nothing new. It's like we've got more new than PlayStation 4 fans have in the last 6 months. We ended the year with Cuphead, Super Lucky's Tale, Forza Motorsport 7, PUBG. We started the year with Sea of Thieves, and we're going to get State of Decay 2. Sony had Knack 2, GT Sport, and Ni no Kuni. I mean, honestly, and now we also get these great games. And not only that, we're playing the same stuff in terms of the third-party stuff. We're playing Far Cry 5, but we're playing it at max PC settings on our Xbox One X.
Can you say that last title again, Crap? Because it makes me laugh.
Ni no Kuni? Is that it? Am I saying that right?
That is correct.
So, I mean, look, I mean, that's not my bag, but I'm just saying, it's like you want to talk about kiddie looking graphics.
Right.
doesn't that and Knack 2, aren't those kiddie looking graphics? And talk about a game with lack of content. Isn't GT Sport a complete lack of content and a step back from every other GT game?
Oh yeah, ever? I saw some people, let's just say from the PlayStation camp the other day, talking about how good fucking Spyro looked. Huh? Isn't that hypocritical after all of the shit they gave Sea of Thieves and Super Lucky Tale?
I'm looking forward to Spyro, by the way.
It's those easy achievements, huh?
Well, I mean, come on, dude. I'm a sucker for I grew up with that and Crash.
I'm giving you a hard time, man.
I'm gonna be waiting to play that.
To be honest with you, Hellhammer beat all the Crash games. I got that on PS4, and he was like, "Yeah, well, I already beat those games." I was like, "Really?" So yeah, I mean, it's.
I'm gonna beat him again on the Xbox once it comes out.
Yeah, so apparently like I was on Twitter and like Tim Dog and Jamie Moran were talking about Darksiders. Apparently the remastered doesn't look as good as the one that we just got in 4K, the 360 version. So interesting. And Sonic Generation apparently looks crazy good too. So some of that could have to do with Microsoft having deals with Sega and stuff like that. So I would expect this to be a pretty interesting E3, and I'm pretty excited about that. In terms of what's coming. But Don, I wanted to talk about this PlayStation 5 rumor because there was the one guy who's like behind a paywall, by the way, to his site, like $1,000 paywall or something. But he's like, dev kits are already out. It could be out under this year, but probably next year. And I ask around because I'm friends with a couple of people, and I ask around, and I hadn't heard anything like that. Is there anything that you have heard that maybe you can enlighten us that you're able to actually tell?
Yeah, I've seen some stuff actually just recently, just this last week, and it's everything I originally thought it was. It's basically there's paper documents going around of estimated specs of what the next PlayStation 5 hardware is going to be. This is typical within development. You've seen this actually with the Xbox Scorpio. Actually, it was a little more public with Xbox Scorpio because they said on stage what the specs were going to be, right?
Yeah.
And normally you don't see those sort of breakdowns. And what that entails is allows developers kind of mock up a PC essentially to match the performance profile of what they're going to be offering and kind of get a little bit of a head start. Last time Sony did this, it was 2 years out for the standard PlayStation 4. On the Pro, I'm not sure. I didn't really know anything on that, but as far as I know, haven't seen any dev kits. I have seen early dev kits on PS4 Pro before it came out, and I have seen the dev kit in hand with the Xbox One X. So I can just say that, I don't think there's any real hardware that actually is out there in the third-party sense. It's just paperwork that's being passed around, telling developers what to plan for. And, the other attention is it's a two-way street. They want developers to really kind of give feedback, and it's a natural progression that developers are always going to push back against some sort of spec and ask for more one way or another. And that's kind of where it's at right now. So it's still possible, I would say 2019, but I'm still going to guess 2020 until I hear anything different. So
yeah. So I mean, basically that's kind of what I heard. Here's the thing. You have Sony having their biggest exclusives that are going to come out. Cause let's be honest, The Last of Us 2 is 2019. Days Gone is 2019. Death Stranding is 2019. So you got your biggest exclusives coming out then. You're not going to come out and kind of sabotage yourself by release, in my opinion, and release kind of new hardware and sabotage yourself. I know, Don, what's interesting for me about this whole situation is this, right? If they were to come out with a place, and this is my thoughts, I had this conversation on Twitter with people. If they go, here's a PS5, but you can play PS5 games on your PS4 and PS4 Pro right now as well. Doesn't it take some of the need to go out and buy that piece of hardware away, just like the Xbox One X, right? That's basically
it does. It does take away from it. It takes a little wind out of the sails, but what's important is to keeping people invested in your hardware, your ecosystem, right? Yeah. That's more important than anything else. So what you want to do is prevent the people that are going to wander to other platforms or wander their interest to other platforms. And a lot of this hardware battle that keeps happening back and forth, the majority of the money it's made on these hardware platforms is basically the publishing rights that the the third-party software gets in order to be on that platform. So anytime a PlayStation game is sold, Sony gets a cut of that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's digital or physical; they always get a cut, even if they didn't have any hands in making it. And the same thing with Xbox. So that's where the war really comes into play. Is they want to continue the people from being jumping ship, and I think that's what's going to happen if they don't have backwards and forwards compatibility. The platform that doesn't provide that, and another platform does, that's the platform that loses next generation.
Yeah.
In my view.
So like it's interesting because Microsoft, obviously they've really pushing backwards compatibility and take your games with you and all this stuff. Sony, on the other hand, has been like, who wants to play old games? We like to remake and resell you all these games. So you think that could actually put Microsoft in a bit of an advantage in that aspect?
Sony's recently filed for some sort of patent in back compat. So I think what you're going to see, Crap, is they're definitely going to have it for the PS5.
Right.
Yeah,
Didn't they just file a patent the other day for the noisiest easy bake oven you'll ever buy?
Well, that as well, yeah.
Don was telling me offline before we went live was he's not allowed to play his PS4 at night because it wakes up his wife because it's so loud.
It is really loud. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy this playthrough of Hellblade a lot better because even with my headset on playing on the PS4, I can hear that fan through the headset. It was awful.
And what's funny is this? I mean, it's just like that's you're more comfortable, man. It's like home, Xbox.
It is.
So you just can enjoy, and that's fine, man. It's like if PUBG ever goes to PlayStation, I'm sure that those fans are gonna just like, even if they're people.
You'll be jumping ship to PUBG on PlayStation then.
Oh, I would never do that. I can't for a competitive game. I just could never use PSN or use that controller. It doesn't suit me. So
yeah, that controller doesn't. It's just not fitting for shooters. It's just
it's not my thing. You know what I mean? Like
that's not your bag, baby.
It's not my exactly.
Right. You and Mooch, we gotta have another game of that Drawn to Death.
We talked about that earlier. Where were you?
We should do that. We should do that.
You guys could play that.
Actually, me and Mooch were talking about streaming some PSVR sometime soon. Mooch, you could play some Star Trek with us.
You're gonna be like, whoa,
whoa. Well, I mean, you know what? Like we did have fun with that. We have a lot of fun with PSVR. So.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good time. We could do that.
Yeah, like that'd be fun. Like for me, and hashtag fun, guys.
Hashtag fun.
So 2020 seems like a good bet for both these.
Yeah.
Here's the I don't know. Like it seems like we're going to get into this hardware back and forth probably. So I mean, the good news is you shouldn't feel jilted if you just bought a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X and they come out with new stuff in 2020 because you don't have to upgrade. I know for a fact you're not going to have to upgrade to play Xbox games. They're going to be like, hey, you can play that. You can play Fable 4 on your X, or you can play it on the Xbox 2.
Yep.
Whatever they're going to call it. So.
Everybody who's listening to this show, Crap, who's hardcore, they're all going to go get an Xbox 2 and a PS5.
Well, we all thought that they were all going to get an Xbox One X too, and I mean, it is doing.
A lot of people did though, and that's the thing. It depends when you're looking at NPD. You're talking about casuals, the whole the North America. And North America didn't go buy one, but the hardcore certainly did.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it overall, if there's 40 million Xbox Ones out there, there's only 1.5–2 million X's. It's a small kind of
more than that, but I'm not nearly 40 million.
Well, no, I was just giving an example.
No, you're right. You're right.
Well, we don't really know how many Xbox Ones are out there.
We never will.
Well, and here's the thing with these iterative hardware. People don't want to spend the money. They're subsidizing the cost of your future console. So it's just like a PC hardware. PC hardware, when people are willing to spend whatever money on a graphic card or the latest CPU or rebuilding their rig, they're subsidizing the cost for a future console. So, let's say the PlayStation 5, I'm not saying it's going to release at this price, so no one kill me, right? But let's say it releases at $700 and everyone freaks out, right? Well, those people that are going to buy it that first year, they're subsidizing bringing that cost of that hardware down. And believe it or not, even Microsoft benefits from it as well because that technology gets reinvested in making chips cheaper and stuff like that with AMD. So, the way I kind of look at this is there's certain customers that just leave because they have to have like latest greatest toys, and there's just a certain segment of that you want to continue to keep them engaged. And there's other people that just simply don't care. And so it allows everyone to kind of just play games and not have to really worry about that. And the people that want to invest, they can invest, and they help out the other guys that are not willing to do it day and day. That's the way I always kind of look at where this is going. So
they could technically have a more expensive PlayStation or Xbox, right? If they were like, here's next gen, but good news, you don't have to actually pay that much for it, you know?
Exactly. They can release sooner, right? I'm not saying that's what they should do, but they can release the hardware sooner, because a lot of what pushes the hardware out is the price point they're trying to shoot for.
Right.
So if they know there's people willing to pay that money, that's the reason why PCs jump so far ahead. Now, I'll have Hellhammer, kind of quote on this as well, but what people are willing to pay for on a graphic card on PC continually went up, right? That glass ceiling kept being raised. And so that's the reason why, like, it's, you can get a really powerful PC, but you have to pay a lot of money. And it used to be like $500 was the ceiling for graphic cards, but that's not even the case anymore. So I mean, that's where all that changes. It just, if someone wants to spend it, they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth too. Like, people spend like $1,500, $2,000 on a graphics card nowadays. Like, the people who are serious about it.
Yeah, and then of course with like the mining and stuff, right? Like that caused everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, everything's super expensive now. Like, I like, honestly, if I were gonna go do another gaming PC, I would probably buy a pre-built because it'd be cheaper at this point.
Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, like that's a good way to put me in a kind of a coma talking about PC stuff. But it's just that's not my bag.
That's not my bag, baby.
Yeah, that's not. So, yeah, I think 2020 would be good. I think people would be okay with that. What's going to be interesting, Don? Like, what do you think? Like, one of the big drawbacks of this right now is if they allow crossplay between PS4 and PS5, Xbox One and Xbox Two, the frame rate situation.
Thing is, people always want to paint me in like a certain corner with frame rate. Like, I just say, like, you have to do it right as a developer. And so there's not a major advantage between 60 and 30. Some people think there is. There really isn't. There's not enough of a difference there. There's some games that are not dependent on frame rate, on player input. It's more of a visual side of things.
Yeah.
So there's no straightforward answer as far as that goes. I just don't feel like there's a major advantage. I mean, buying a new router will give you more of an advantage, or the right television will give you more of an advantage in games than twice the frame rate, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
As long as the base hardware is doing a stable, consistent 30 frames per second frame rate, I think you're solid there. And if they are going the 60 route, like, do it right, because there is ways to do it wrong. You're hitting 60, but your frame rate timing's awful. You get screen tearing. There's sort of buffering techniques to kind of.
Wouldn't FreeSync on the TVs that are coming out kind of help with that too?
They would help out with that as well. So I mean, and that's what's cool about FreeSync. It opens all the possibilities of doing different things. So you can do like a game. I say I want to do a locked 45 frames per second game. I can do that with FreeSync.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's not cool about FreeSync is all of us bought 4K TVs already. So that's what's not cool about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a group of people that are like, well, I haven't yet, Mooch, and I'm going to enjoy both of them. That's great.
By 2020, you might be moving on to something with FreeSync, though, Moochie.
I mean, it's true, buddy, but I don't know, man. These TVs aren't cheap, bro. I mean, I got an OLED. That you don't buy those.
I did a yard sale the other day, and I got myself a FreeSync and wash my hands in it every day.
Well, no, I mean, think about it, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that would eliminate the thing. Because here's the thing with Don, right? Like, everybody, he's a developer. He's not the only one that says this, right? There's lots of developers who go, don't be so sure that every game's getting 60 frames next generation.
Yeah,
that's not going to be the case.
Well, yeah, there's things like what is it? The new ray tracing will affect that by a lot, actually. Yeah. The new physics that we're going to be start seeing down the road, that's going to affect that as well. So, like, so many people think it's a guarantee they're going to get 60 frames per second next generation. I just don't think that's always going to be the case.
It's not always the case, because you can't speak in absolutes, Don, but I got to be honest with you. If next generation doesn't hit the majority of the tree, if you're going to start getting into racing, these ray tracing and things that just came out a week and a half ago, fine, that's great. And I'm saying that sarcastically, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if typical AAA games, okay, like Ghost Recon 2 and blah, 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 and all, if they're not all 60 frames, then pardon me for saying this, but then what is so next generation about it? We're already doing 4K 30 on the
It's
X.
going to be the graphics, like he's talking about the ray tracing and stuff.
Yeah, well,
you know?
I mean, but the harsh reality is any game can be made 60 frames per second almost on any hardware if you really think about it, right?
Right, that's true.
So if you start that as a baseline, this is what we're going to develop our game around, then you can always make a sacrifice to make it that. But the thing is, not all developers think that's a necessary thing for their game design, and there's a lot of money that people spend, and there's a lot of people get very emotionally attached to certain frame rates, right? Like I've seen a lot of it.
He's talking about the armchair developers, folks.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of people out there that do. So like, I mean, and then I mean, even see people in comments like, oh, Don doesn't know what he's talking about because he doesn't think frame rates matter. Well, I know the millisecond difference that's there, and I also know the millisecond difference that happens on other devices and stuff like that. So, you know, where the threshold is on all that sort of stuff. And in certain games, they're ran off the physics engine. They're not necessarily ran off the actual the frame rate refresh that you see. So, like Forza is one of those games that's like that. It's the reason why you can play Horizon, you can play Motorsport in Horizon. You're like, how in the hell does this game feel so good? Because it's actually based on player input. It's actually tied to the physics engine that runs actually like the refresh rate. I think it's 124 frames. Yeah. Don't quote me on that. So it's pretty high. So I mean, there's so many factors. I just don't think. Don't get your hopes set up on just 60. Is what I'm trying to say. It's like you're gonna get better across the board.
Multiplayer games, I think, are all gonna offer 60, but I think you're right in the terms of. There's going to be a lot of like people wanting to use the ray tracing and all these kind of physics and stuff that are gonna take a toll on these games, and they're going to want to push it. Albert Pinello of Microsoft said, "You know what? There's always going to be developers that are going to want to push the visuals, and you also have to look at open world games, right? Open world games to get those to run at like the 60 frames and stuff is very, very tough. Wasn't there one that just came out that was an open world game that hit 4K 60 on Xbox? I don't know what it is, but I mean, we're like, I think that, you know, we'll see a lot more 60 for sure, but I'm just saying, don't expect every game to be 60.
Well, here's the thing. We're almost there's possibility this year we're going to see frame rate interpolation, which is basically a fake higher frame rate is what happens. So, you know, that is being integrated into game engines right now. I'm actually looking at what update with an Unreal that I'm expecting to have it on, and that's probably the update I'm going to run my game on. Is on that frame rate interpolation. So I mean that sort of feature is huge. So you can have an open world game. The baseline is really designed around a 30. All the animations built around that 30. It's designed around that, but you can have that extra graphical feature thrown on top of it. So
the interpolation on that, like on like a game engine, because I'm not 100% up to date on that side. That's similar to like how like on a TV, like they do like 120 hertz or whatever, but it's, you know, basically kind of duplicating the same frames.
Yeah, it's basically a similar method, a similar technique, but it's driven by the GPU alone, and it doesn't need a CPU input to make it happen. As far as what I understand. So usually the bottleneck's on the CPU side of things.
Yeah.
So, and what happens if you have excess power on the GPU side of things that just go into waste because it's starving from the CPU side? So that's what we're talking about on those sort of things. So yeah, you could do open world games that have a much smoother frame rate. I mean, there are games today that we're playing on the X that still have 30 frames per second, but they feel smoother because they're hitting their target frame rate much better and much cleaner. And so the input does feel smoother on those. So there's a bright future. There's options out here for developers, and when they're giving the developers the options, and you're not painting them into a corner, right? You're going to get better results in regards to that. It's not just laziness. You just give options. They're going to try to figure out what's best for their game and present you with the best possible experience.
Yeah. So I mean, like a lot of people on PC, they just have a rig that can kind of boss hog the frame rate, right? Even though maybe that's not particularly what developers, because if you look, I remember a lot of people going, oh, well, Destiny's going to be huge on PC because you're going to be able to run it at 60. And even though Bungie didn't even develop that version.
Yeah, well, it's also one of those things too. Like developers give you performance profiles that have big enough jumps to make a difference. So when you have different pieces of hardware that all it works. But you got to keep in mind like the options they really are giving you on the PC side of things, and PC guys are going to get upset at me when I say this, but it's equivalent to duplex Legos. Like it is big jumps that they're giving you, and they're not really giving you all the options that they really can in regards to that. And because what they want to do is kind of dumb down the experience so that people can get something up and going in regards to that. So they're not optimized experiences on PC. So if you have powerful enough hardware, yes, you can boss hog it. But it's still not optimized experience at the end of the day. So
nice, yeah. I mean, because that's what I kind of thought. Like I'm not a huge PC, like but I like you help clear some stuff up, because you know what the funny thing is there's like a lot of casual like PC dudes who just think they know everything when it comes to gaming, and that can be frustrating for some people, because they just go, oh well, 60, they can do 60 on this for sure. But then when you hear a developer talk, like me and Mooch interviewed the Craig Duncan from Rare, and we asked him why it wasn't 60 on the Xbox One, and he was like, well, the engine's not built for it. The way we built it was really smooth on Xbox like that. Sure, some PCs can play it at 60, but for us, it was all about how we wanted to do our game, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really basically kind of reiterating what another developer has already told us. Remember that, Mooch?
Yeah, no, I remember that. I mean, I listen, Don's in the business, so there's no reason for me to say everything Don said holds water, and I actually believe every syllable. I just think this, coming from a consumer standpoint, if I could sit down with a room full of developers, I'd say this. Your customer is demanding the 60 frames. And you might go, what are you talking about? What are you saying? Here's the thing. If now, back in the day, the console was leading the PC. Now the PC is leading the console in power, right? You just said it. We can have a $1,500, the graphics card. So if you go and watch anybody, small to large PC channels, or you go to any of your friends that have PC, they're willing to play the game at 720p and at 120 frames. You know what I mean? It's the frames. So look at as far as console players are concerned, we're happy with 4K. We don't need 8K. We're certainly not there. That I'll agree with you, Dom. We're not going there. But realistically, unless the game is meant to be played slower, which is different. That's a totally different subject. That's something where if you're the artist, Don, and you're telling me, Mooch, you need to play this thing at 30 frames. It's how I want you to play the game. Then I'm all about it, and you're not going to hear me complain at all. But if you're still holding me back to 30 frames at this point, like I can't ride with you on this one. The next generation has to be 4K 60, period, unless the only asterisk I'll put up there is the asterisk that the game is meant to be played at 30 because of you guys fill in the blank. You're the artist. I'm the consumer.
You might be a little bit disappointed.
I don't think I'm going to be disappointed at all, to be honest with you. I think 98% of games will be 60 frames.
Go ahead, sorry.
That what you're going to see though is that it's not just the frame rate that's going to increase. It's the graphical fidelity, it's your physics engines and how everything reacts in your environment. That's what's going to be eating up everything.
Well, right now we're playing max settings on games. And we're doing it at 4K 30. So you're telling me,
but that's always a sliding scale. You have to keep that in mind. So when people say max settings, that always changes. Like
it does
every 2 or 3 years. It's not standardized.
Don, they can keep us at the max settings of today and give us 60, and we console gamers would call that next. But
I think people would want people don't really.
Yes, it is. You put one more firework or lighting effect in and keep me at 30, I'll still feel like I'm in today.
Well, you're talking about way more stuff than that when you're talking about ray tracing and all this kind of
stuff. We were excited about DX12 for 3 years into this generation, and we're just seeing it today.
I'm still excited about it, man.
You're not getting any ray tracing in 2020.
Whenever I see, yeah, we are. I mean, whenever I see
ray tracing is running on hardware right now.
It is running on hardware right now. DX12 was running on hardware in 2013, and we saw it last week.
Well, no. If you have to look at the games that were actually utilizing it, like that Battlefront 2. Those games are using DX12.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's my point. It came out that's like now. We were talking about it in 2013. What I'm saying is Don's talking about it. You're not going to get ray tracing games in 2020. You might see them in 2022 that really fully utilize it.
I think we'll see it. But here's the thing. Like you're saying that we should get games that look the same visually now, but at 60 frames, and that's next generation.
Crap, you have a 4K TV. You don't have an 8K TV. So if there's a little bit more lighting effects or a little bit more of this or that, what I'm saying to you is you will find the masses complaining if there's more lighting effects and still at 30 than if there's the max settings of today.
But it's not just
60 frames.
It's not just lighting, though. That's the thing.
Whatever it is, lighting.
AI is going to get better. So if you're playing an open world game, crowds are going to react better. That's going to take up more CPU cycles.
Like, it hasn't improved, right? Like these are all glass ceilings that developers are going to take advantage of. So,
yeah. Right.
You know,
well, then they need to make the console a bit stronger.
Where you're slightly right, Mooch, is, you know, there's some developers going to say, okay, now I have some power. My game can do this. Maybe I'll take this option with this more powerful hardware.
Right.
And that's fine. If a developer, and I'm okay with that. Like,
majority will, Don. Not many this generation or next or in any generation. There's very few you could name that took the bar and moved it forward. Very few. So what I'm saying to you is I'm okay with that. If those 5, 6, 7 big open world games that Hellhammer and Crap are talking about that are using ray tracing and AI that, you know, can tell you exactly how you want to, you know, that's great. And I'm willing to take the sacrifice on the frames for those games. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the majority of people are ready for the next step. And I'm telling you, just as a consumer standpoint, not as Don the developer, because you know more than I do in that category.
Yeah.
If you want to sell, you're going to see a lot more games coming out 4K 60 than you're going to see ray traced lighting effect and AI smart at 30.
Well, you know, they may sacrifice that stuff. Like, if that's what markets more is the frame rate, and, you know, publishers will push that, then yeah, then maybe that's something that they will sacrifice on these newer games. Right. So my thing is, just don't paint developers in a corner, because what happens is you get a watered down experience by people that don't know how to push the buttons or pull the levers, right?
Don, I'm not going to paint them in a corner, but when the developers, and they're very talented over at Sam Lake and his studios there that made Quantum Break, they pushed the envelope with the checkerboard stuff first, and they were basically like
they were chastised for it.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is, it's not that we're painting them in the corner, but that we came to expect something this generation that we started getting with the mid-gen upgrades. And what I'm saying is, if you want to listen to something, listen to this. We as general consumers are ready for 4K 60. That doesn't mean I don't want you to push the envelope. I want you to go out there and give me the best experience possible.
I just want to point this out real quick. I'm not saying that 60's bad or 30's. That'd be ridiculous.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna point out what Phil Spencer himself said, and I'll read it verbatim. Don't get me wrong. I love frame rate. I love Ori. It's one of the reasons I love playing Forza Motorsport. But you have to go back to what you said before. Most people, what frame rate does Minecraft run out? They don't know. Some people just want to have fun playing Lego Batman. Frame rate doesn't matter to most gamers.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And Phil also doesn't like marketing deals. But, like, you know, my whole thing is like that when you said that whole thing, it was the Peanuts gang. It was womp 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 womp.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
I hear you, Crap, and I'm not busting your. That's actually good on you to pull up that piece from Phil.
But I'm quick on that, man. I'm quick on that.
No, you were. That was very impressive. I am. I just think that we need to say that we are consumers, Crap, and I think ultimately, if you go out and get a console next generation, and they're like, "Look, Crap, we gave you this, this, and this, which is updated today's max settings," like Hellhammer saying, "but we kept you back in this." It's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Here's the thing for me, right? If I get a next generation, like when I went, the first game I played when I got my Xbox One was Rise. You could tell the visual fidelity was different. I wouldn't have wanted to play that game looking like a 360 game at 60 frames per second. I wouldn't.
Right.
I wanted to play that game because it looked gorgeous and it was really a showpiece. I don't want to play a quote unquote next generation console that looks the same as my current console, but just has 60 frames. Like when I play Gears of War 4 campaign, I slapped that puppy up on the 4K because it looks phenomenal.
Crap,
like
there's no way Gears 5 can't do 4K 60 and look better.
Maybe. I think it depends. Like, what if they want to go back to like 4-player co-op campaign? Then that's going to cut your frame rate. I can guarantee it.
Well, I mean, there's a middle ground too, which is frame rate interpolation, right? That technology is going to be adopted across the board,
especially Microsoft.
Isn't that how they did Ghost Recon Wildlands or whatever it is, right?
It wasn't. I'm not sure on that one, so I don't want to comment on it. But
okay,
but
for me, guys,
he's like a doctor. No comment. Where's my chance of surviving, Doc? Well, I don't really want to comment on that.
I'm a little opposite. For me, the next gen, what next gen is going to represent for me is for developers to finally get a lot of the little things things right and to bridge the gap between a lot of the tech demos we see at E3 and the actual games that we see on the console. That's what I'm hoping for. I want to see those really lifelike animations come through in the facial animations, how hair and cloth physics are finally starting to look like the real deal. They start to move appropriately.
That's what I want to see.
Hey, those are the things I'm looking for.
Play Hellblade on Xbox One X, bro. You're
Noof, if you want
right now.
If you want that game, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be gorgeous, and it's going to be in-depth as Portal. You know what I mean? It's not going to be like, you're not going to get anything that's like Red Dead 2 that's that next generation. No way.
Hey, here, to be fair though, Mooch, I do think we're going to see a lot of 60 frames per second games, but I'm just saying, don't be surprised if we get some 30s in there.
Listen, but here's the thing I'm saying to you. I agree with you. Okay, you're going to get 30s. You're going to get like 3 or 4 a year that are massive, pushing the envelope.
I think it depends. Open world games, I think,
it's going to be more than it's going to be more than 3 or 4 a year. Look,
it's going to be a 10% increase from what we're doing now.
Yeah,
so 10% of the games that are normally would be doing 3, they'll be doing 6.
So you're telling me Far Cry 6 is not going to be 4K 60 on my next gen console? I don't know which
developer's going to make.
Well, whatever. I pulled their name out of a hat.
I'm just saying, just in general, like. I expect this is a reasonable expectation, which is 10% of the games that we're seeing released today are going to be able to go with the 60 option with the new hardware that's there.
Doesn't have to go with engines too, Don. Like depending on what the engine's built.
It's just how the games are.
There's a lot of variables. He can sit here and be like, but Don isn't at this and Don isn't at that, and he's gonna go yes, yes, yes. But the point I'm trying to say is that, like, at the end of the day, I'm just telling you right now.
Hey, we got snakes in the chat.
If 10% of games are the only 10%, we only see 10% increase in 60 frames. Those guys are gonna get tarred and feathered. I'm telling you right now. That's just not gonna fly.
Who's gonna tar and feather them?
The consumer.
You mean the handful of vocal minority?
No, it won't be the vocal minority. It'll actually be the vocal majority.
I don't know, dude. If like I think Phil.
Why am I upgrading from an X for to spend another $500?
Let me quote next gen. Better graphics.
But it might not be better graphics. We only have a 4K TV. I'm playing 4K right now.
Well, no, but resolution is different than graphics.
Crap. Guess what? The casual folks, they don't know what you're talking about with that.
They're gonna want the better graphics though, dude.
But the thing is,
the casual folks don't know about frames either, really. Like,
frame rate,
you can feel
count is only a small percentage of what makes it. I mean, it's a percentage of what makes up your graphics, but it's not everything, right? Like that's what it really comes right down to it. So there's always going to be other things that people just don't understand.
We just all got done saying this generation to not make a big deal of the P's, right? It was like, no, P's don't matter to me. So if P's don't make a difference to you, then the next obvious like rise to fame is the frames. We've been at 30 frames for effing ever.
No, we got most of our multiplayer.
No, not multiplayer. I'm talking about everything else is 30. Okay, I mean everything. The Witcher 30. Far Cry 30. It goes on and on.
But look, you're gonna see probably a good mixture of more games that are gonna hit 60. But most of those games that you're gonna see are gonna hit 60 are gonna be more of those story-driven, point-to-point games, either first-person shooters, games. Yeah, basically, yeah. You're not gonna see an open-world game that's hitting 60. I mean, you will, but it's not gonna be every single game. Those open-world games, when developers make them. Most of the time, they sacrifice the frame rate.
I think the stuff you're talking about with the ray tracing and the AI getting smarter, I think that'll be the next generation, mid-generation. That's when you're going to see that stuff highlight. I think really, because you're only talking about 3 years, 2 years after these consoles have come out, these mid-gens, that we're going to be going up again. So you're going to be locking in your 4K 60 for your next one, and then the ray tracing stuff's the next mid-gen.
You're talking about in 2 years, right? Like because that's most people's best.
Yeah, 2020 thing for all practical purposes.
2 years, you're looking at a huge difference in power.
Yeah. If we're looking at a huge difference in power, then 4K 60 should not be an issue.
I mean, you're looking, but I'm saying though, it's not
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Don't get me wrong. I know what you guys are saying too.
Power it's not a parity thing like that, right? Like it's like when your power goes up, these people who are making these open world games say like CD Projekt Red, right? They're gonna take that power.
If you're in the kitchen, if you're in the kitchen and you're barely putting out 100 plates, okay, and all of a sudden the manager comes in and goes, "I got you 3 more cooks." You're like, "Whew!" Now we can keep up with demand. They're like, "No, but I let 150 more customers in." Well, that doesn't do any good. We're still behind the 8 ball. So what I'm saying is that like you are right. You are going to have some games come out like Don's saying where they're going to push technology. And I think that's great. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm all about it. Like I can't throw numbers out because I don't have these numbers in front of me. But I'm just saying, I think that the consumer's ready for 4K 60. And if you can dabble a little bit of, like you say, AI, textures, lighting, etc.
Right now, like what I'm going to say right now, though, as it even sits right now, 4K 60 on PC is almost a pipe dream.
Yeah, but you just said yourself 30 seconds ago, 2 years from now, we're going to have tremendous more power.
We're going to have a tremendous amount.
That's all I'm talking about. That's it.
But here's what we're going to end up with, right? It's a tremendous amount of more power. It's going to be on the PC side. It's going to make stuff that's, say, a $1,500 graphics card today might be the equivalent of what you'll see in the next generation hardware, which is still
I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
Which is still struggling.
It's still struggling because, but not in a closed environment like a console is.
Even with people brute forcing 4 or 5 times the power of, say, these consoles, people are still struggling.
We'll see. I mean, it's hard to discuss 2 years out.
Well, yeah, it definitely is. But the biggest issue is CPU. Even though there has been some improvements recently, like CPUs haven't improved at the rate that they need to for what people want. And and what Mooch is speaking of is he's speaking from the heart. I want this. I want 4K 60. Yeah. Like he does. Mooch, and no offense to you, Mooch, but I don't think you have any clue what ray tracing will be, right? And
but I don't. Let me tell you something.
You're not going to care.
Though? Right? Guess what? Nobody knows what ray tracing will be except for you and a handful of other people that took an oath. On the West Coast. My thing is, like, none of us know what it is. But you know what I do know? I do know what $500 is, and I know how I'm going to spend it, and I know what I want to see as my next upgrade. And I don't mind seeing you guys take that and pushing the limits. I think all of us want to see you guys push the limits. Don't stop innovation. But certainly don't hold us back because you're going to try and dabble something, and then we're all. I think it's progression. We need some progression here.
Well, yeah, but I don't think there's ever been a generation where they go, this is a 60 frames per second generation. I don't think it works that way.
Crap, we just spent 4 years and developed in Ps.
Well, no, that was a vocal
this is
minority.
The P generation. No, it's not the vocal minority. Yeah. Everybody that walked into GameStop tripped over the letter P. It was like Sesame Street every day.
Why are they still not tripping over that now?
They are. They're still tripping over it. Sure, they are.
No, they are. There's nobody's even covering P's anymore.
Well, P's got old, right? 4 years is a long time to run with one letter. Crap.
Here's the thing, Mooch. It was only a thing because whatever Sony's advantage is, that's the thing.
Whatever. All I'm saying is this. I'm not going to see, like, we talked DX12 in 2012, 2013, and like Crap just said, we saw it in Battlefront 2 that came out 3 months ago.
No, we saw it in Battlefront 1 as well, 2015. And you know what I mean? It's like, it was harder.
Yeah, you see pieces of it. My point is that now we just saw ray tracing being brought up at one of the latest conventions. It's not going to be like the head title game in 2020.
That's just an example.
There is a game released this year that will have ray tracing on it.
Yeah, it'll be Qbert.
No, it's Metro Exodus. They've already confirmed it.
Well, listen, we saw glimpses of Metro Exodus in a glimpse, and it's supposed to be that was CGI. I didn't see a whole lot of ray tracing in there.
But what I'm saying is we're going to see games, and I'm not saying it's going to be on the hardware we have on our televisions, even though to some degree it is possible with the hardware we currently have on our television on the Xbox side of things, because it is a DX12 extension. So it can be implemented, and it's being implemented in Unreal this year. It's being implemented in their engine. So these sort of things, this has been in the works for a really long time. So it's just one of those things. It does hit the CPU. The CPU takes the hit on it.
Yeah.
If the CPU takes the hit on it, Don, and everybody's well aware of this, and you've made it very clear that everybody's well aware of it, then that's what they should be aiming to focus on for their next target for next generation, is make that CPU as strong as possible for cost efficient.
And that's one of the pushes they are pushing on on those earlier development documents you see on the PS5 side of things.
Right.
So they are pushing for that. So
well, that's good.
No, these are good things. What I'm trying to say is, like, don't set your expectations so high in this one direction and then just get disappointed. Like, that's where I'm trying to say. I'm trying to reel it in. And say,
Don, after this generation and what I've been through, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm well aware of what we're walking into. I'm just saying that if more games are 4K 60, mission accomplished. That's all.
There will be 10% more. And
it'll be more than 10%, but that's fine.
You're not going to see all these open world games running 60. I can almost guarantee it. I'm just saying.
Well, we'll see. I bet you a lot of them will. And I think some of the ones that want to drive innovation and do something different with the open world games, you're right, they won't.
No, I don't think. I think the ones that do drive innovation will reserve the power for that innovation and not have it tied to frame rate.
Exactly, they won't. But I'm saying to you, if you want to do GTA 5 next generation, that one would be 4K 60.
And if it looked exactly like GTA 5 graphically, but with 60 frames per second, I mean,
guess what? People will be lined up around the corner for it.
I mean, they're going to be lined up because it's GTA 5, but I mean, they're going to be.
That's what I'm saying.
They're just going to go. Like, what was the biggest disappointment with Gears 4, right? People are like, it looked like a 360 game. You know?
Giving gamers the technology to do the things like Mooch is alluding to, that's the easy part. The hard part is giving us the technology that's actually affordable on the consumer market. That's always the trade-off.
That's the hard part.
That is the be-all, end-all. I mean, Microsoft can literally go in right now and build a super fucking game computer if they wanted to, but can they get it under 500? And that is the sweet spot. I mean, I think even when this next gen comes out, don't be surprised if they do launch at about $500 right out of the gate. And the reason I think they can still sell it at $5 is because we have seen the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X have a relatively decent level of success here at higher price points because those gamers want it. It just depends. Are they going to go with multiple SKUs or are they going to go with one? But again, it's just getting the tech into the consumer.
I agree with you, Noof, but hear me out. I think you're right. I think the next one they can sell at 500. I think the cost of the unit would be 600, and Microsoft can absorb that because they're going to launch, like we said earlier in this episode, with Game Pass and all these other things that are subsidized. They're making money on the back end immediately on subscription-based things. They can actually have a $600 unit first sale for 500 and hit the sweet spot.
It'll be interesting to see, but we've hit that 2-hour mark. Mooch, what do you got going on, man?
What do we got? We got Crossfire Friday night, 7 o'clock. Then we have MNC mornings, 11 o'clock.
We do
Eastern time.
Yep. Noob it's me. Boom, 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 boom.
Did we just go off the air or something? Because the video thing just stopped.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, it's still live.
Okay. Well, you guys always know me, man. You'll find me in the gutter or my dick in the butt or something like that, right? Anyway, guys, it was always a pleasure. Great to be here. Like I said, advance notice due to my new job and probably working like weekdays every week now. Probably going to be a little bit late making the show. Hopefully that's not a big problem.
Nah, not a big deal, man. You hopped in. It was all good.
But had a lot of fun. As always, guys, you know where to find me, Noof Nukem, Noof_Nukem on PlayStation, all that good stuff.
His PlayStation ID is Noof Nukem, boom, boom, kaboom.
You had my wife saying that earlier, too. It was funny. She walked in the bedroom after you were saying it, and she's like, boom, boom, kaboom. That's pretty funny. Yeah, so that's good. I'm going to go back to playing some Hellblade, I think, a little bit later on. Fantastic experience last night. And you know what? I chose for the visual mode as opposed to the frame rate because I just love that crisp graphic fidelity of a 4K television. Yeah, no, frame rate makes a game look smoother, but it doesn't make the game play any different, in my opinion.
Well, that's a good topic, but we could be here forever doing it.
Yeah,
depends on these aren't Crossfire outros, folks.
That's right. Save it for Friday.
Boom, boom, kaboom, out.
Hellhammer, what do you got going on? Nothing.
Yeah, not really. I work all the time now, pretty much. So I'll be back on here next week. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at XXHellhammer or on Xbox Live XX_Hellhammer.
Good stuff. And the Don, thank you for joining us tonight. What do you got going on, bro?
Yeah, the best way to figure out what I'm doing is follow me on Twitter, which is @thedon_KTR, and then it's the same as my gamer tag, just no underscore. And I do have a YouTube channel, so just follow me there. And I try to stay one video ahead of Hellhammer. So I don't release them very often, but if I see Hellhammer release one, I got to make sure I get on top of it. So.
That's good.
Zing. And with that, we appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. A lot of fun tonight. A lot of good talking. Be good to each other, man. It's just games. It's just opinions.
That's
Rack them up, and we'll catch you next time.